Hi everybody, Gary Payrow here, and I want to talk to you today about how not to get ripped off when buying a real estate note. Now that's a little dramatic, and really we're going to talk about the value of a real estate note and the six pillars of value and how you can tell how much a note should be worth and what makes a note good versus what makes it a little weak. And of course, weak notes aren't necessarily bad. It just means that you have to get them at a discount. Your expected yield must be significantly higher. You must take some things into account. But notes are a great way to make passive income, and we're going to talk about that today. So, first of all, um, these are the six, six, six pillars of note value. Now, the foundation here is the note balance, okay? How much is still due on that note? So if somebody owes the bank, which is you come in the place of the bank. If somebody owes you $100,000, that's the basic foundation, but is that note really worth $100,000 just because that's the balance on the paper? Not necessarily. And what's the first one? Well, real estate is a people business. So the first asset in any business, the most important asset, are the people. So who is a borrower? And what do you know about the borrower? Usually it's the credit score is very important, what they do for a living, how long they've lived in the property, things like that. Job, stability. Typically, I mean, you're not creating the loan, you're buying the loan. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult and a challenge to find out a whole lot about the borrower because you're not having them fill out a loan app. But if you can find the loan app, that's great. If the current servicer has that information, that's great information to keep in mind when you are evaluating a note. The next part is the collateral. Now the collateral is not paying, but the collateral is your security. And again, that's really it. It's secure. That loan is securitized, secured by the collateral. So you really want to take a look at that. Now, when you're looking at a note, a lot of times you'll have a BPO, broker's price opinion, or an appraisal or some other valuation. Sometimes you're looking online. Maybe you have a variety of sites online, including Zillow, for example, or Chase, or some of those. Those are great. Also rans. Depends upon the part of the country. In some areas of the country, those values are better. In rural parts of the country where the volume, trading volume, sales volume isn't as high, those numbers can be pretty suspect. But that's the second thing. The third thing is the equity. Now this maybe comes in to play in several ways. It depends upon how much money the borrower put down when they purchased the note. That's usually most important when the note's fairly early in its lifetime. We've had lots of appreciation recently. I don't know when you're watching this video, but in our market, we've seen a lot of appreciation. So that's another thing. Has the property appreciated? Sometimes this is a second note, and sometimes it could have started off as a second note, and the first note got paid off, and so now that second note is in first position. So you can see a lot of variation in how much equity they have. But again, the equity is very important because if the borrower has equity, they're not likely to walk away from $20, $30, $50,000 of equity and stop making payments. That's the key. Is you want this guy on a performing note, you want that guy or gal to keep making payments and make it profitable for you. Next are the terms of the note. Mostly the biggest thing to look for there is the interest rate, but there are other things, the length of the loan, is there a balloon payment, things like that. Pay history. Now this is not the borrower's pay history of how they get paid at their job. This is how well have they done in making payments on that loan. So if the loan has been, if it's a performing loan, that loan should be current. It should be up to date. The payment should be made on a consistent basis and on time. You prefer on-time payments rather than missing a month and then catching up 2 months later. That shows a little bit more of a risk profile. So you really love it when that payment comes in the first of the month every month. And if the loan has been modified, sometimes you can look at a note and figure out that just those numbers just don't make sense. Maybe they stretched out past 30 years, like 45-year term or something. the loan is sometimes modified. So look at the payment history. You really want to focus on payment history. You really want to focus on notes that have been serviced by a professional servicer rather than a guy who's just got an Excel spreadsheet. So, it's a pay history been certified. And another thing is it Dodd-Frank compliant? That's a great thing, although that's more of a paperwork thing. But if they're not current, look and see. Maybe they got behind and they've just been sort of a rolling, 90 days late, but they've been paying for the last 3 years on time. It's just they've never caught up. And that's oftentimes an issue between the servicer and the lender, the borrower. And if they have a consistent pay history, you can also go on, Google Earth and Google Maps rather, and look at the property. If they've got, a nice ownership, green lawn, flower beds, everything's painted, they've obviously got pride of ownership. So that's another thing. And again, that kind of goes more back to the borrower. And then the last thing is the paperwork. Okay, and this is a little bit challenging for the passive investor, and that's why it's great to work with a guy like me or a note broker or somebody who's a professional. If you have a friend who's buying notes, that would be a great thing to do. I love working with first-time investors to help them get started on notes because I love helping people generate passive income. So that's it. So again, it's the borrower, the collateral, the equity, the terms, the pay history, and the paperwork all have a bearing on whether you are expected to pay full price for that note, or if you are going to buy it at a discount. So, oh gosh, you know what? I didn't realize I was like this, so I apologize. Folks, this is what it was supposed to look like as we were going through this, and then I was going to switch to the whiteboard. So again, sorry for such. I may have to re-record this for my YouTube channel, but hopefully you were able to follow me. And then I was going to go to the whiteboard view where we look at what the borrower, what a typical example might be. So here, if you just, for round numbers, if you say, what if the home value is $100,000? Let's say you've got a note on that property that's has an unpaid balance of $50,000. Well, if the term is 120 months, that shouldn't be dollar sign, sorry for that. If the term is 120 months and the payment is $466, let's say, and a house like this, a $100,000 house, that might rent for $1,000 a month. So if you've got a payment of $466, that actually is another good thing. When you're looking at the borrower, you try to put yourself in his shoes, and you say, well, if that guy wants to go out and rent a house just like the one he's paying on, if he quits making his monthly mortgage payments, he's going to have to pay $1,000 a month for rent. That's a very difficult conversation to have with your wife, or if you're the wife's the wage earner, to have with your husband or your kids. We're going to have to go spend hundreds of dollars more a month for the same kind of house. Not a good conversation to have. So I like to see it where the mortgage payment is low relative to the market rents. The price of the note, that is, the note price, might be $40,000. Now, at that price, for 120 payments, if you get a payment of $466 a month on a note that cost you $40,000, and in this case, we're saying, what if you bought it at a discount, right? That would bring your return up from where mortgage rates are today up to a very healthy 7%. So that, and it's also very, I hesitate to say safe. I say secure. This is a secure investment because it's secured by this asset over here, and it's secure. Oh, that's not the house. That's the pillars. But you understand. So it's secured by a physical asset that's 60% equity to you. So the investment to value is only 40%. So a very secure investment. You can feel comfortable with that. I like notes because they allow me to sleep at night, and I can dial in my risk tolerance. So if I'm getting a very high yield, I might go with an 80% investment to value, assuming that I have a high yield and assuming that I like that asset, and if the borrower stopped paying, I wouldn't mind owning that property. But on most of the time, I just want passive income, so I'm coming in at lower investments to value, and this right here would be a great note for a good passive investor. So that's what I had to say about the values of notes, and again, borrower, collateral, equity, terms, pay history, and the paperwork of the note. Those are the 6 pillars of note value, and I thank you for hanging out with me today. What I'd like you to do is to consider visiting us at Passive Monthly Profits. Now you know why I printed all this up, because I always have my wife write things like gift cards and stuff, birthday cards. I have her write the birthday cards for me because her handwriting is beautiful. But that's it, PassiveMonthlyProfits.com. Go there and you can set up a time to talk with one of us about how you can get started in real estate notes with our guidance, putting your money to work so that you're not waiting around for the stock market to dive, or hoping that the bank is someday going to start paying you real interest. So we can put your IRA or your cash to work and start making you money today. Thanks so much. I enjoyed talking to you, and I will see you again. Please if you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe at Professor Cashflow, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.